Hey everybody, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time going over the last lab of the semester here, the Competing Nucleophiles Lab. Even though that this is the fifth lab that you've completed or that you will be completing, it's numbered Lab 7 from an old numbering system, so don't worry about that. So this lab is going to rely heavily on your knowledge of GC. So if you want to see my video on GC, you can look at the video in the slideshow. It's the same that you've had for the past two labs. It's just there as a refresher in case you need it. So the idea is you're going to you would normally go through the lab and make a nucleophilic medium, and then you would react that nucleophilic medium, which has equal molar amounts of chloride and bromide, with both 1-butanol in one reaction and then T-butanol in another reaction. Okay, and then once those two react with the 1-butanol, either there should be a preference for the product of N-butyl chloride or N-butyl bromide, and the GC will tell us that. Okay, and the same is true with the T-butyl alcohol. If you react that with chloride and bromide, both of which are nucleophiles, and then you react it, let the reaction do its thing, you should be able to see what the ratio of chloride, T-butyl chloride is to T-butyl bromide. And so this lab, you're going to spend a lot of time, you would normally spend a lot of time like making sure that everything is up to speed and that it's equal molar amounts and things like that. But the write-up of this lab doesn't really need you to do the lab in order to get this. The lab is you would get gas chromatography results, and you would, after reacting the N-butyl alcohol or the 1-butanol with the chloride and bromide nucleophilic mixture, this is the result that you would get. Here's a GC. This is this peak right here is the solvent peak. You don't have to worry about that. But then you have the N-butyl chloride peak and then the N-butyl bromide peak. That tells you something about which nucleophile is favored in that reaction. And so that's for the part B. And then for part C here, you have another GC where you have a solvent peak here. And then you have, again, the T-butyl chloride and then the T-butyl bromide. Notice there's a huge difference between the two GCs. These peaks, as I tried to indicate here, are, while they're slightly different shapes, have the similar area underneath the peaks. Okay, so this again gives you hints about the nucleophilicity, or how nucleophilic the chloride is to the bromide here in terms of the reaction. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to take that information and you're going to highlight that information in 4 parts. You want to write the lab up formally, so in paragraph form, making sure that you address these 4 things. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is give me the results of the experiment, and that's what part A is. Explain which halide predominated in each reaction, and then explain how do you know that. You can say that the chloride predominated or the bromide predominated, but then you need to explain how you know that. Use the data that was given to you to tell you that. And then it says discuss the relative quantities of halides in the reaction. And then, so what you're going to do is then explain why there was a predominant amount of either the chloride or the bromide in each reaction. Okay, so for part B, the chloride was present in much more amount than the bromide, but in part C, they were about the same. So we want to know what the relative quantities are. Are they roughly the same? Are they, is one 3-to-1, 5-to-1, 8-to-1, 12-to-1, 50-50? I don't know, whatever it is, relative quantities. And then you want to know. And then I want you to use what you're learning in Sherlock's lecture about why that makes sense based on the mechanism of the reaction, because we know that primary alcohols like N-butanol or 1-butanol undergo a different type of mechanism than tertiary alcohols like T-butanol. Okay, so that may be part of your discussion. And then you're going to talk about how fast the reactions happen. And you can see this in the experimental procedure that you have up above. And then also based on the temperatures. Okay. So you can talk about how quickly they react, and then what the rate of the reaction is based on. Is it based on how much of the nucleophiles you have? Is it based on the nucleophile and the alcohol that you're starting with, which we call the substrate? So that should be there should be some clues in there. And then the last thing you need to talk about is the relative reactivity of the two alcohols. And again, you can tell that based on the reaction procedure that was given to you up there on the first page and the top of the second page. And so you should be able to determine which one is more reactive. And again, that as you talk about that, you should be able to explain that based on the mechanism and based on what you know about nucleophilic reactions. Okay, so I expect this to be written up formally, meaning paragraph form, and it doesn't have to be several pages. It just has to be long enough to explain each of these parts. And then once you get that done, please submit it to me by email. If you just want to write it as an email, that'd be fine. But you can write it as a Google Doc or as a Word file, whatever it is that you want, and I'll be able to handle it and grade it from there. Okay. Thank you so much and have a great day.